tsunamis, and hurricanes. But when those happen, support and compassion comes in from tons of different people, right? Governments mobilize resources and bring in funds and workers to build up communities, and people pray. People from all around the world see the problem and they pray. Right? There's that compassion and that support. So if people are that good, right? If you can see the goodness in people there, then why isn't life this good? Now, who here has experienced something awesome? Put up your hand if you've experienced something awesome in your life. I know that I have. Probably the first time that I met my fiance was an awesome time for me. Right? We love moments where there's goodness in life and the goodness in people shines. So with that, I'm going to read the first 8 verses of Ecclesiastes chapter 12. It says, "So remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of adversity come and the years approach when you will say, I have no delight in them. Before the sun and the light are darkened and the moon and the stars and the clouds return after the rain. On the day when the guardians of the house tremble and the strong men stoop, the women who grind grain cease because they are few, and the ones who watch through the windows see dimly. The doors at the street are shut while the sound of the mill fades, when one rises at the sound of a bird and all the daughters of song grow faint. Also, they are afraid of heights and dangers on the road. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper loses its spring, and the caperberry has no effect. For the mere mortal is headed to his eternal home, and mourners will walk around in the street. Before the silver cord is snapped, and the gold bowl is broken, and the jar is shattered at the spring, and the wheel is broken into the well. And the dust returns to the earth as it once was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Absolute futility, says the teacher. Everything is futile." Now, that sounds pretty grim. Is everything really just futile? I mean, how many of us have ever suffered in our lives, right? Show of hands, who's suffered in their life? Yes, everyone has suffered a little bit. But I thought life was awesome, so I'm kind of confused. What about you? Do you have any maybe desires of things you want to do in your life? Maybe you want to get married. That would be a fun thing to do. And you say, okay, I want to get married. That's going to fulfill me, and that's going to bring me happiness. But the Bible promises that there's going to be trouble in life if you're married. So is it even worth it to get married? What about gaining man's approval? Well, unfortunately for you, you can't keep that once you die, right? There's going to be a quote on your gravestone that says, how cool you were when you were alive. What about money? We love chasing money, right? That's a fun one. Unfortunately, the best thing your money can do for you is keep you warm in your coffin a little bit longer before your body goes cold. Death is a great equalizer. Everything is futility. So how do we find satisfaction? Is life really futile, or is there something to be gained from it? Is putting effort in even worth it? Is it going to be worth it? That's what I want to look for today, is we're going to explore how to live a satisfying life. So what does the culture say, right? Culture says, don't waste your life. Culture says, okay, go out with your friends, go drink, go party, live it up, right? That's going to be what's going to fulfill you. I'm going to bring your attention to the author of this book. His name is King Solomon. Now I'm going to tell you what King Solomon had, and this should make him happy. King Solomon had a royal palace. He had 700 wives, 300 concubines. He had wisdom given to him by Yahweh himself. He dedicated his life to the search of joy, and these are the words that he leaves us with. Verses 1 to 8. Now, I want to read verses 1 to 8 again, in the NLT, because I think the way that the NLT puts it is really, really smart. The NLT basically interprets all of the imagery that's in Ecclesiastes. So let's read it. It says, "Don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor him in your youth before you grow old and say, 'Life is not pleasant anymore.' Remember him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is dim to your old eyes, and rain clouds continually darken your sky. Remember him before your legs, the guards of the house, start to tremble. Before the shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember him before your teeth, your few remaining servants, stop grinding. And before the eyes, the women looking through the windows see dimly. Remember him before the door to life's opportunities is closed and the sound of work fades. Now you rise at first chirping of the birds, but then all their sounds will grow faint. Remember him before you become fearful of falling and worry about danger in the streets. Before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy like a dying grasshopper. And the caperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember him before you near your grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator, now, while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water jar is smashed at the spring and the pulley is broken at the well, for then the dust will return to the earth, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless." So there's this person named Taylor Swift, and I'm sure almost all of you know who that is. Taylor Swift has the approval and love of millions and millions of people, right? Everyone loves Taylor Swift, except for me. Which must mean that she's happy, right? I mean, if I was loved by, 1 billion people or something like that, I would feel pretty good about myself. I don't know what the exact number is. But Taylor Swift, in interviews, has said that she is anxious, she's paranoid, and has frequent nightmares. She thinks that people are going to plot to kill her, or that people are always listening. Such is life. There's chaos, and there's goodness. You can't separate them. There's going to be an earthquake, and then there's going to be compassion. So, approval should come from God, not that quote on your tombstone. I'm going to read verse 7 again. It says, "And the dust returns to the earth as it once was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." You only have one destination, and that is death. God's approval lasts through death. So it's pretty important, and it's satisfying, right? That's what's going to satisfy you, is God's approval. So would you have a plan for $1,000? If I said, here you go, here's $1,000 right now, what would you do with it? Maybe $10,000 is a little bit more impactful. Maybe you would buy a car. Maybe you would buy something else. Is there joy in riches, though? Let's think back to our author of Ecclesiastes, King Solomon. Now, adjusted to modern currency, King Solomon had $2.8 billion. Wow. He must be pretty happy. Now, I had a friend, and I met him at camp, and I connected with him after camp one time, and I was like, okay, so what are you doing, this summer? And he said, oh, okay, I'm going to get a job. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. And he was like, well, I want to buy something. And I was like, okay, what do you want to buy? And we play the same game. We play the same video game. And in that video game, you can buy items. It's kind of weird. And so he was like, I want to buy this item in this video game. And I was like, okay, how much is the item? He says it's $1,300. This guy gets a job so that he can buy $1,300 of pixels on a screen. I have many words for that man, but I won't say it. Don't chase riches. A man named Jay-Z, another musician here, he's the richest rapper in the world. And he was asked about money. More specifically, his relationship with money. And he said, it's complex and it's deceiving. People think it equals happiness, but it doesn't. Remember how much King Solomon had? $2.8 billion? Well, Jay-Z has $3.4 billion. 600 million more than King Solomon. But he's aging. He's getting old. Will a golden fork help you when your teeth no longer grind? Will a perfect bed help you when you awake at the sound of the birds? Will the nicest glasses that you can find help you when the lights go dim? Do they help? Would we rather have the earthquake or the compassion, right? The goodness in people in our lives? Would we rather have a hurricane or support from thousands? Unfortunately, life has both those things, right? Taylor Swift has chaos and she has fame. Jay-Z has money, but he's not happy. Life has both, and it ends in death. And now, there's another problem. Judgment! Verse 13. When all has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is this: fear God and keep his commands, because this is for all humanity. Now, this is the first mention of God's commands in the entire book of Ecclesiastes. This is your clue. Verse 14. For God will bring every act to judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. God will bring everything into the light, good and evil. All will be judged. You need to live for the imminent death and judgment. That's it. But that's kind of lame, right? I don't want to do that. I want to go back to, chasing that car or chasing that fame. But no, King Solomon had that. And these are the words he leaves us with. Absolute futility. Everything is futile. Now, Tony Evans has an illustration, and I found it in a book that I read, but I don't have the book, so I had to write it in my own words. So there's guy number 1, and we'll call him Tony, and he talks to guy number 2. We'll call him Evan. So Evan is a guy who works on cadavers, which is preparing bodies for funerals. And Tony asks Evan if he's freaked out at all by the bodies. And Evan then talks about how the bodies will sometimes have, spasms. They'll blink. And one even threw themselves onto the ground when he was working on it. And he's having fun at that guy's expense. But Tony repeats his question to Evan and asks, are you freaked out by that at all? Evan responds by saying, it doesn't freak me out, because I know that they're dead. They just exhibit semblances of life. Now, are you just exhibiting semblances of life, or are you truly living with meaning? Consider your heart where your heart's at. God is present. Respect him, because nothing else will satisfy you. Right? Fear God and keep his commands. This is lasting satisfaction. And it gives you a blessed assurance of your salvation. When you follow God's commands, it shows that in your heart you have been saved. It shows you that you have change in your heart. When we follow God's commands, we take off the old self and put on the new, and our heart has been changed by the gospel. The second half of verse 13 says, fear God and keep his commands, because this is for all humanity. Did you see it? Did you catch it? All humanity. That's the Great Commission right there, hidden in the Old Testament, in Ecclesiastes, the last chapter. Go therefore, preach the gospel to all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And behold, I will be with you, even to the end of the age. Fear God and keep his commands. God is going to judge, and so we must snatch the brothers out of the fire. Preach the gospel. Give other people that blessed assurance. I want to finish by reading a quote from a song that we sang. We didn't sing this particular verse, which is unfortunate. But it says, "Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art." Share that treasure with others. Preach the gospel. Nothing else is going to satisfy you.